Hi there, Sandy here. Welcome to another Friday Findings video at keepsakecrafts.net. Today I'm going to talk to you about another great finding that has a lot of pluses but some minuses, and that's magnetic clasps. And by the way, this shot that you see on the screen was one of the trickiest ever to set up because they're all magnetic. They kept leaping on top of each other, but I finally got it by not having them too close to each other. So here are a few magnetic clasps. If you've been making jewelry for a while and you start looking for something new and different, you might come across these and think they are a fantastic idea. And it is a good idea. A magnetic clasp sounds good, only it's one that I use with just a few warnings and things to pay attention to. I'm actually highly suspicious of magnetic clasps because, like, here's a bracelet I made recently with Super Duo beads, and it just comes apart so easily. So I could be, yes, it's easy to put on, which is a plus, but if I was out and about and doing stuff, it'd be so easy to catch that on something and my lovely bracelet and all my hard work is gone. But I'll show you in a minute a way to keep that from happening. So here are a few magnetic clasps that I've gotten, most of them from artbeads.com. And if you're interested in the supplies, in all of my videos I always have a blog post with the supply list and product links so you can find these for yourself. My main concern with magnetic clasps is, like I showed with this one, security. Now for a bracelet, that's a problem. Here's a necklace I made a long time ago. I think this was one of the first bead weaving projects I ever did. And I put a magnetic clasp on this. And I kind of like it because this is a choker. And so, see what I mean about them jumping on each other? So, this is a choker, and so it's nice to just be able to give it a tug and pull it off and not feel like it's going to choke me. So that's an instance where a magnetic clasp, as long as you're not going to be doing something where it's going to get strained, could be a really good choice. And it does make it easy for somebody with difficulty with their hands to put on and take off. So back to these clasps. This is probably the one that I would use the absolute least because it doesn't have any kind of safety features. One tug and it's taken apart, and that's that. So what I would suggest is that if you want to use a magnetic clasp, you make sure that there are other catches in place. For example, this is a tube clasp. It pulls apart like this, and that is a little magnet right in there. And it attaches to a magnet here, and so you can hear it snick, and so it's magnetic. Here's a bracelet I made with one of these, and it is nice and easy to put on, and it's very secure. One thing I like about these magnetic tube clasps is that they don't take up as much space as another clasp. Often directions will tell you that a clasp is going to take up about 1 inch, and this takes up probably ½ inch, which is nice because there's more room for a bracelet. And it's easy to take off. I just catch it there. One warning about these: the day after I made this bracelet, and this was a lot of work, and then I sewed the clasp right into the bracelet, one of these little pieces, the one with the magnet, came off. It actually popped right off, and eventually my bracelet fell off, and I was thankful to find it in my home and not lose it somewhere out and about. So you might want to just check that. I actually sent Art Beads an email and they sent me a replacement, and then I found the magnet and glued it, and it seems to be good. Let's see, tugging. Is it that one? No, I glued that back in place and now it's good. But something to check to make sure that that connection is secure. I think 99% of these are going to be just fine. I just happened to get one that wasn't good. So this is fun because you can do this 10mm that is antique brass plated. You can do 20mm with 5 rings. This is silver plated, copper plated. Now this one, just by virtue of surface area, is pretty strong. Again, a tug would pull your bracelet apart, but there's a lot of magnet surface area here, and it's It takes a bit of work to pull it apart, but I would still prefer those with a catch that is in opposition to the direction the magnet is pulling. And what I mean by that is, this is the best example. This is the Mini Regals antique brass plated magnetic clasp. Regals. And you can see here are the magnets, and they're pulling towards each other, this way. But then the catch, in order to undo it, is pulling this way. So they're pulling in complete opposite directions. So in order to undo it, you kind of have to give a twisting motion. One twisting in one direction, one twisting in the other. So this I would consider a very secure clasp. Also, these are some really cute, the antique brass plated magnetic heart clasps, also from Art Beads. And I thought these were adorable because the clasp is part of the design and it doesn't even look like a clasp when it's closed. And again, the magnets are attaching this way, but the catch is pulling in the other direction. So you have to do, again, that twisting in opposition to get them apart. And they come in different finishes. And then there's this one, quite blingy. I got this at the craft store, and the magnets are here in the little hinged hook. And again, they're in opposition to the direction you would need to pull it apart. So the magnets are catching this way, but you're going to have to lift that up and over and around to undo it. So those are a few options, and I'm sure there are others, just things to watch out for if you decide that you want to use a magnetic clasp. One thing I did in this bracelet that I probably would not do again is that I sewed my clasp right onto the bracelet. The clasp is now, this is the thread that's going through the beads, and it is part of the bracelet. And I was really bummed when I had to ask Art Beads for a replacement for this clasp, because I knew I was going to have to undo a bunch of thread and redo it. And so the next bracelet I made was this one, and I did it differently. What I did was I put a number 8 seed bead right there instead of sewing on my clasp, which I could have done. I could have sewn it right there with some thread. But instead I put a seed bead and then attached a couple of oval jump rings. So if anything ever goes wrong or I feel the need to change the clasp, I don't have to undo the whole bracelet. Thankfully, like I said, I found the magnet that had fallen off of this and glued it on, and I didn't have to do any resewing. I asked Art Beads to send me the resewing fairies, but they said they were all busy for Christmas. So anyways, here's a little trick for you that I thought of to make this bracelet more secure, because I really like this and it was a bit of work and I don't want to lose it. The first thing I did was I wrapped it around the widest part of my wrist and then measured how much distance I'd need there, and that's about 2 inches. And then I have a piece of chain here, and I'm going to attach the chain here and make a little safety catch so that even if the magnet comes undone, the bracelet won't fall off as easily. So while I'm doing this, I'm going to tell you a little story of what made me think of this. When I was 15 or 16, my mom and I went to one of those fairs, you know, the type with rides and fried dough and games and 4-H animals. And we were walking around the fair, and this man, I wouldn't even call him a gentleman, he was kind of creepy. He walked up to us, took my mother by the hand, and started trying to talk us into playing one of his games. And neither of us was the least bit interested in playing a game. And he stood there for the longest time with both hands holding her hand in this very almost courtly, but like I said, I was 15 or 16. I was utterly creeped out by this guy. He just was holding her hand this way that was so strange. And he kept talking and talking and talking, and it was awkward and uncomfortable and weird. And eventually he stopped and left, and my mom and I just looked at each other and shook our heads and kept walking. And it wasn't until we got home that she realized her gold watch was gone. Yeah, he had taken the time, and it was a nice gold watch. It had a catch, and it also had a safety chain. And I suspect that that safety chain gave that man fits. I'm guessing he probably got the catch undone, likely being a pro, and then he probably had to break the chain in order to get it off her wrist without her noticing it. And that's why he was standing there so long holding her hand. So creepy. So the moral of the story is don't wear your nice jewelry to the fair. Goodness, don't let creepy men touch you. I don't know if you'd get away with it these days. This was back in the 80s. But anyways, I thought of that, and that's what gave me the idea to put this little bit of chain on. Just enough. See, it's a little, I just have to kind of work it to get it over my wrist. And then, let's see if this will work the way I think it's going to. And then I can do the catch. And there. Okay, now that's kind of all attached to the catch because it's magnetic, but that's okay. There. So that's good. Now I feel so much better, because if that comes undone, this isn't going to fall off easily. I feel so much better about wearing this bracelet, which I really like. And I'll have a link for the directions on making this. I followed somebody else's directions on my blog. So there you go. If you're interested in the supplies, click on the little tag in the upper right of the video, or go to the blog post that is in the description box. And be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Take a peek at I'm having trouble. Here we go. Take a peek at my Patreon page for how you can get great rewards and help support these tutorials. So happy creating, with or without magnetic clasps, and keep your jewelry safe from creepy men.